me slipping. Y'all caught me slipping. Uh, Welcome back. Okay, if that intro didn't tell you where we're going today, uh, I think you already know. How's everybody going? Doing? I keep saying going. How's everybody going? Like, where are you going? Anyway, I'm glad you're here with me. Thank you very much. Okay, we are going to get into um, Scotland Part 3, right? Scotland Part 3. Is it 4 or 3? I don't I don't remember. We have the last region that we have to talk about. And here's the deal. My favorite region? Possibly. The best region? Possibly. Personal opinion? Absolutely. Take that for what it is. I am not having a dram today, not because I don't want to. Is I don't have any Islay whiskey available. So I have a bunch inside and I didn't go get it. I'm sorry. And it's a little early to be drinking right now. After this, I might crack something open. You know what? There's some Bunnahabhain right behind me, which is Islay whiskey. Let me see if there's anything left in it. 1 second. So here's the deal. I know we've already talked about this multiple times, and you guys are probably pissed at me. Keep talking about it. Oh God, there's like drips in there. Okay. Those of you in the Patreon are getting the video portion of this, which good for you, I guess. You get to see me working in the shed and doing the thing, right? We're doing the thing. This will not go out to anybody. I mean, the video part will go out to nobody else besides the patrons because they support monetarily. And if you would like to do that, go to patreon.com/the whiskey shaman and help out. We're doing cool stuff. So anyway, all that being said, we'll talk about our sponsors and stuff later. You know them already. So here we go. So let's talk about Islay, right? We're jumping right into it. I do have a little bit of housekeeping, but it's more of the same. You know, you guys, if you guys saw, I don't know if you saw or not, I did then I was in Germ's Freedom Malt Blind Showdown. I went against officially Duckworth and lost. I lost. I got 3 points. Sucked pretty bad. It was very difficult. So my new thing that I'm doing is I'm trying to blind everything. So take that for what it is. The Bunnahabhain that I am getting the dregs out of, if you don't know, is Bunnahabhain. It's an Islay single malt Scotch whiskey, right? But it is unpeated. Even though they can use like 25 ppm's worth of peat and still call it unpeated, this is the one, the Sturador. Yeah, Sturador. Anyway, translated from Scottish Gaelic means helmsman. It's a rich sherry aroma of fruit, nut, and spice. Natural coloring, non-chill filtered. 46.3% alcohol. It's really good stuff. Like I said, there's literally 2 drops in here. So we're going to slancha this. Yeah. Super malty, super sherry forward, but then it has like a mustiness to it. It's really good. Probably going to pick up another bottle. If you're wondering where that bottle went, it went into the infinity barrel. Yeah, it did. It's coming along great. We've got a lot of whiskey in there, and I'm really happy with it. Okay, so let's get into it. I had so much help with this particular region. I know a lot about Islay. I know a lot about the different things. I'm going to do some screen sharing for those who are watching. If you're not watching, you know what to do. But so basically it's going to help me because I have notes, but like these notes are on the computer, so it just makes it a little bit easier for me to conversate with you guys. And I was trying to pull up a video, but all the videos that I've seen so far are just not conducive to what we're getting into. So Islay obviously is an island off the coast of Scotland, and they have to have everything shipped in. Obviously, ships are a thing, um, and they are known for their peaty, briny, salty whiskeys because they use peat in the drying of their barley, and the smoke from the peat. Okay, let's talk about peat for a second. Y'all don't know what peat is. Let's talk about it for it. I mean, we're gonna go back to the beginning. Every time I start talking, like I start coughing or something. Anyway, uh, what was I saying? Okay, peat. Sorry, got off top. Blew my brains out coughing. Whatever. Um, peat is decaying earth. It's basically dirt, right? But it's thousands of years of dirt, I guess, compacted upon itself. So there's like dead plant life, there's dead bugs, there's, just it's very organic material, right? It's not the same as like sphagnum peat moss. It's not the same. It's actual dirt. And what they do is they have these fields, and it used to be a bog, and now it's turned into a rolling field, right? And they would literally they have what they call a peat shovel, and they cut bricks out of the peat because it's wet still. So they cut the peat and make little, I don't know, I think they're like 12 by 4 by 4 bricks out of it. And then they just lay them on the ground, on top of the ground, so the sun can dry them. And then it turns into a big old clod of dirt with a bunch of stuff in it, right? Well, then they take those and they throw them in their kiln when they're kiln drying their barley, and the smoke off of that imparts flavor in the whiskey. Pretty cool. There's a lot of people doing it. There's a lot of people that are, you know, doing that in the U.S. They're doing that all over the place. There's Irish peat. There's, there's a lot of different places that are peating whiskeys. But Islay is known for its peaty, briny, smoky whiskey, right? I think there's a couple that do a gin as well. Whatever, I don't know. Anyway, super cool stuff. So here we go. I'm trying to think of where to go from here because there's a lot. We have a lot to cover. So I don't know how long this is going to be. But at the same time, it'll be fun. Let's do a little bit of history. How about that? So I am going to share my screen. Share my screen. Here we go. All right. I don't know if you guys can see me. And this was from my good buddy, Scott Thompson. I know he doesn't want me to shout him out, but I am. This is this is coming straight from the Edinburgh Whiskey Academy's paperwork. So you guys are getting like in-depth stuff. Okay, here we go. Let's just jump into it. I'm reading verbatim his notes. I thought this would be kind of cool. When the Parliament of England and Scotland joined the first Act of the Union in 1707, the taxes were made the same for both sides of the border. Then the 1713 malt tax extended from the England into Scotland, abetting half of the English rate. In 1725, the tax was increased to 3d per bushel of malt, and civil unrest accumulated in Glasgow Sheffield rioting during June of that year, when the mansion belonging to the pro-malt tax local member of Parliament, Daniel Campbell, was ransacked. With the £9,000 compensation he received, Campbell bought the Heberden Island of Islay. And in the years to come, the Campbell family would do much to nourish the legal distillation on the island. which ultimately came to recognized by the Scotch Whisky Association, which whiskey produced in its own right with a full smoky medicinal signature character. In 1987, yeah, we're skipping forward a little bit, Guinness put out the classic malts. This was 6 single malts representing distillation from each region. This is kind of cool. This is cool stuff here. It's not mainly Islay, but this is really cool stuff. In the Highlands, they had Dalwhinnie. You need to go find them. Isle of Skye, they had Talisker. Excellent. Speyside, they had Cragganmore. West Highland, they had Oban. Islay, they had Lagavulin. And Lowlands, they had Glenkinchie. Okay. Islay, known as the Queen of her bride due to her fertile land. Islay was traditionally a perfect place for whiskey distillation due to its ready supply of barley and peat. I'm going to butcher names, so just sorry to the people of Scotland. I am a horrible person. Anyway, the Kildalton Coast distilleries, Ardbeg, Lefroy, and Lagavulin were renowned for their briny flavor and full-body peatness. The distilleries on the north of the island are more delicate and that less attack you with peat. There are 2 new distilleries opening up on Islay in the near future. They were planned earlier, but COVID, one of them is called Port Ellen. I've heard they're amazing, making some amazing stuff. The other distillery, there was a distillery by that name on the island, but it was shut down. According to the instructions, there's not really reviewed on the old distillery. It's essentially a new construction, and they're using the name. It is a Diageo type thing. The other is called Port Natron. Okay, I'm going to spell it. Not that that's going to help. Phonetically, it's not right. Portintruan. As described. Okay. So it is a very new distillery, and they are scheduled to be opened this year. That's really cool. So Islay in itself, let me see if I can stop sharing, and then I'm going to start sharing again because I have another oh God, I didn't. I'm very sorry. Okay, no, it's fine. It's fine if they see it. It's fine. Sorry, guys. I'm doing a lot of. I'm trying to get a whole lot of stuff going, and so yeah, you just got to bear with me a little bit. And if this episode sucks, I'm sorry, and I will not use computer crap anymore. But let's talk about more into peat. Ready? Let's go. So this is called the Peat Essays, an introduction from the Brooklady Distillery. I can't. It's by Angus McGrailed. 2 out of the 3 ranges of single malts that we make are peated. We look to bringing back some malting capability into house, and the peat we use is of our own mind. Oh my God. Sorry. The peat we use is more on our mind than ever. We know that our mailing list survey, blah, 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 that it's on your mind too. This company has a fine wine background, and it's been pursuing ideas about terroir and whiskey since 2001. It's interesting to have Angus's perspective, blah, 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 blah. The story of peat and production of Scotch. Is a story of a highly carbon-rich organic material transitioning from the fuel source to an agent of flavor. I'm sorry, guys. If you guys can hear the AC running, it's spring, bro. It's spring and it's getting warm. You know, it's Texas. What do you want me to do? Peat is an ingredient which bears considerable responsibility in lending to countless whiskeys souls, and is such as it's cut to the heart of all the important by pressing the whiskey's future as a drink and as a cultural phenomenon. Peat is many things, but most of all, it's the land. Vast tracts of Scotland are carpeted in bogs and peat moss, and the reality of it physically reaches impact to the course of the civilization of this country and others for centuries. Before we dug and burned it, its marshy geography oh man, I'm sorry, I cannot read. Curtailed our desired lines, restricting our travel along special paths and routes. It drew our creature that we hunted and ate. It captured and channeled water that we drank, and in the depths we sank to our death. Peatland is in our mind, much like the whiskey itself. It's mystical, ancient, Celtic, despite all the existing abundance of far-flung around the world. It's pretty awesome. And that's showing like peat bogs and stuff. It's pretty cool. There was a thing where they were talking about the peat and what it had in it. And I was just gonna but peat is many things, but it's also the land, remember? So terroir is a very old French concept, and we've talked about terroir before, but it's a cultural one. It has been applied to people who, as well as crops, who produced over the centuries, and that has not been as static in the meantime. Growing, yeah, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to give you all the good stuff. Anyway, peat, it's a reliable fuel source. It was local, it was transportable, storable, and abundant. It lent a signature phenolic flavor to kiln-dried barley, and its subsequent distillation derived from those malts. What was incidentally, in fact, that was the most powerful romantic truth of Scotch whiskey. I am going to get out of that because wow. Stop sharing. Okay, sorry. I gotta switch gears real fast because I feel like I'm just trying to read this stuff off the screen and it's not it's not coming. I'm trying to get away from the cooler so you can still hear me. I feel like it's not coming across as genuine as it should. Okay, so as we well know from the other episodes, Islay Scotch whiskey in general has a very rampant history of, good, bad, and the ugly. You know what I mean? It's really crazy. It's really crazy to think about somebody that's been making whiskey since the 1700s. You know what I mean? Like, that's a long time to be making whiskey and trying to do it the same way. That's where, and this is not a poo-poo against bourbon, but that's where bourbon doesn't have that. It doesn't have that long-standing history. Bourbon, before Prohibition, what was it? There's not really a whole lot of record of it. It was white spirit mainly, white, grain spirit, which wasn't very good, so they mixed it with other stuff. Like, its history is 100 years old. And it's amazing now. Back then, I don't know. I never had a bottle from, I had a 1920 bottle actually. Oh no, that was a Scotch. Never mind. Yeah, it's really strange. It's really kind of with I'm searching for words because there's so much we can get into, and I don't want to make this be like 7 hour long. You know what I mean? So with Isla in itself, the tradition and the history and the terroir, the water, all of the things, the barley that's grown there, all of that plays into it, and that's why. And I mean, it does for all of the regions, and I'm sure it does for American whiskey and stuff like that. You know, I'm just talking about historically. Historically, um, Isla whiskey has been a constant throughout all this. It's been a constant, which is really kind of strange. It really is. That it has not changed that much. Obviously, you go through people, and people distill spirits differently than others. So I get it. But at the same time, it's like, my Lafroig that is 20 years old is going to taste approximately the same as the Lafroig from right now. And I don't mean like a 20-year-old age stated Lafroig. I mean like one that was bought 20 years ago. Think about that in massive scale, right? Think about that 200 years ago. They were trying to do the same thing. I'm all for innovation and innovation in whiskey and doing. Sorry, my mustache keeps getting in my nose. It gets hung in the microphone. Sorry. I'm glad it's there. That's all I'm going to say. I'm just glad glad the stash is back. Um, there's just the heritage behind it. It's pretty much unrivaled in whiskey. I know there's people making whiskey way before Scotland even. The Celts, the Druids, whatever, you can go back to Mesopotamia, they were making whiskey. They didn't call it whiskey, obviously. Eau de vie, it was an eau de vie, or it was the water of life, what they call it. There's a bunch of really cool documentaries and stuff on the birthplace of whiskey. We might dip into that later, not now. We're here to talk about Isla, right? Um, if you have never had an Isla whiskey, and I don't mean a Bunnahabhain unpeated, I mean a full-on peat monster, right? Well, maybe peat monster too, but like a full-on peated release from Isla. It is a totally different character. It is something that I don't know. You know what? No, yeah, no, I'm not gonna do it. It'll blow my palate out. I have a sample of Octomore 6.1, and I'm thinking about jumping up there, but we're not gonna do it. We're not gonna do it. No. Okay. It's just a little sample piece, but like it's Octomore is so peated. We'll get into it anyway. So how do we know a peated whiskey from another? Normally if it says Isla on it, Isla, you know, some of them do say peated single malt, so it'll let you know. Not all Isla single malts are peated. Okay, they are phenolic. They are sometimes salty. They're sometimes they have a little more briny as salty, but they have a little they're different. They're just different because it's that coastal air on the barrels. It's the way that I mean, they, even if you don't make a peated whiskey, right? Bunnahabhain has peated whiskey. Berklotty has peated whiskey. Like Lafroig does not make an unpeated whiskey. There's some of these places that only make a peated whiskey like once a year, like we talked about with Balvenie. They do a peat week, or once a week they do a peated run, which is super cool, but and then it's super limited as well. So like getting it's kind of hard and it's expensive. But that's the other thing with scotches, especially in America. They're difficult. They're difficult to buy. They're expensive. They're worth it. I feel like they're worth it. I would rather spend, and this is personal opinion, I would rather spend $100 on a Scotch bottle than $100 on a bourbon bottle. Sorry, I said it. I like bourbon a lot. I drink it. I enjoy it, but at the same time, it's the depth of flavor. And we might have talked about this before. Sorry, I keep having to move. We might have talked about it before, but the depth of flavor from a bourbon and a scotch, right? Bourbon has a bandwidth of very small. You get basic notes. You get basic notes. You're not getting, you know, craziness. You know what I mean? Where with scotches, the bandwidth on it is 3 times that. When they make a flavor wheel, they're not making it for bourbon. Okay, they're making it for scotch or single malt or American single malt or whatever. Because I mean, I've had some American single malts that are funky, man, good stuff. But we're talking about scotch. We're talking about Islay actually. But I keep having to remind myself that, or I'll go off on a freaking rant, which I know you guys are used to by by now. But so with Islay, what I look for and forward to, depending upon the distillery, right? If I go with a Brooklady by yeah, that's just was on my mind. If I go with a Brooklady and I'm doing like they have different releases, right? Port Charlotte is their heavily peated release. If I'm going for a Port Charlotte, I know up front what I'm getting into. It's going to be very smoky. It's going to be a lot of times when you do tasting notes for peated scotches, they're not necessarily notes that you would want to have. If that makes any sense. It's stuff like medicinal, Band-Aid, what was the other one? Oh, like walrus bathwater, you know, salty, bacon, cooking ham, barbecue, that's a good one, I guess. But but like gym socks, stinky blue cheese, it can go weird. It can go weird real fast, depending if you get into like okay. Now we'll caveat to the Octomore. Brooklady also makes a peated, heavily peated release called Octomore, and they do a couple of releases a year, and it is the highest ppm peat parts per million of any other whiskey out there, supposedly. How they can monitor that, it's a phenolic thing. I'm guessing they do. They have freaking scientists and shit, so it's fine. They know what they're doing. But also, like the one that I had was the 6.1. Yeah, I know it's an old bottle. It was like it was at some points, which when you're getting into whiskey, you want to try everything, right? So there's some points on that Octomore, I was like, I can't friggin' drink this. Like, this is not, it's not disgusting. It is so strong in its flavor that I'm like, wow, what the heck? That's peated scotch. Now, here's the deal. It's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. You have to ask yourself a bunch of questions when you're doing that, and you have to baby step into it. I mean, a lot of people jump into Octomore and they're like, "Hey, it's pretty good, cool, let's go." But I'm sorry, I need to get a drink. Like, I talk too much, I guess. I don't know. Wow, that was a mouthful of water. Like, that was way too much water. Now it's gonna make me burp. I'm sorry. This is high quality podcasting here, guys. Come on, boob tube. I almost called it boob tube. I lost my train of thought too. Sorry. The the ppms on it will turn you off. And they monitor those, and like according to, and these aren't, don't quote me on the exact ppms per distillery, because like good lord, we can get stupid deep on each distillery, right? But Lefroy has about 35 ppms to 40 depending. Ardbeg has 45, a little bit more, right? But it's different. Like, let's talk about that for a second, and then we'll continue on. Lefroy to me is smoky, but it's also ashy. Like, okay, have you ever walked by, weird tasting note, but have you ever walked by somebody who is smoking cigarettes, specifically cigarettes, and it's in an ashtray, right? But it got damp. So like there's ashes in there that are damp, but it's cigarette ashes, not cigar, not a bonfire. It is cigarette ash, wet cigarette ashes. Like I said, some people are like, why the hell would you want to drink that? It's an amazing taste and I love it. But then once I'm not saying, again, we're going to go into this. Here's the thing about it as well. When you drink peated scotch, it kicks you in the face, right? It's up front, it's angry, it's right there. But then you start to acclimate to the peat, and you see all of the stuff in the back. Because when I drink Lefroy, yeah, it's peated. Yeah, it is. But I get honeysuckle and light berry, like a raspberry, but not like a astringent raspberry, like the sweetness, maybe even a strawberry. I get all of those notes, and it's so magical. Like it is. There's just so much there, and you can dive into it for hours. You know what I mean, or pours, depending. And then like Ardbeg, to me, Ardbeg is, it's more, has more salinity to it, right? It's like salt water. Not in a bad way, but it's also salted taffy, right? Salted taffy. And the peat note, like the peat that comes through is smoke. It's smoky, but it's also like, it gets to like a barbecue type smoke, like a wood smoke, I guess you could say, but like with the meat, what they call a Maillard reaction, right? That Maillard reaction. I do a little barbecue, guys. Come on. That Maillard reaction from when the meat is cooking over coals. That's mainly for what they call the German style of cooker, where you have not burning coals underneath your meat, right? The meat, as it's cooking, has grease or fat or whatever on it. It drips down onto the coals, and those coals, then they start to smoke, right? Well, they're burning the grease or the fat or whatever, and it is creating a compound on there, and it coats, that smoke is coated in that greasy goodness, and it's going back onto the meat, therefore flavoring the meat. It's like basting yourself in your own sweat. I don't know, it's gross if you say it like that, but wow, I went there, I'm sorry. Like, have you ever seen the cartoon, the old cartoon of I guess the guy's trying to cook a frog, right? And the frog jumps in the pot and he starts like basting himself with the broth. That's what it made me think of. But it's a lot meatier, the texture, whereas the peat on Lefroy, and this is personal opinion, and I need to do a side by side again. The Ardbegs I have are not the baseline Ardbeg, so I need to do it with Ardbeg 10 versus Lefroy 10. Maybe I'll do a video on it. So Lefroy is like more ashy, but it comes across like as ashy, maybe even a little like cigar smoke, right? Like somebody smoking a cigar, like a cherry cigar or some flavored cigar, a Swisher Sweet or something like that close by. Or maybe pipe tobacco, like somebody smoking a pipe, and it's like a flavored tobacco. It's kind of has a sweetness to it, whereas Ardbeg is a little more rich, right? Um, so, and those two have a fairly similar ppm rating. Then we move on to, I feel like this part's getting better, right? Don't you? Like, I don't want to talk. I mean, I love all the information that I got, and I was going to go through the different distilleries websites and stuff like that, but I don't want to read. I'm sorry, I don't want to read. It doesn't feel genuine. I feel like some of the episodes I've done where I've read, especially these, that I've read a bunch of stuff. It just, I don't know. It just, to me, it's all about um, being genuine. And I'm going to tell you this right now. I love doing this podcast. I'm never going to stop. Right. Well, I mean, Lord willing, right? But at the same time, I want to be very genuine about it. And if I'm not feeling something, I'm not going to push it. You know what I mean? I'm not going to like edit it out, and I'm not going to like do all the things, because I want to be very genuine and be like, you know what? I'm not feeling this whole walk through the distillery part. You can go to lefroy.com, you know what I mean, and do your own research on the specific, almost a Pacific. They're not Pacific, they're Atlantic, specific distilleries, or Ardbeg, or, you know, any of these. There are quite a few distilleries on Islay. We can get into those. All of them great, but I was talking about Lagavulin. Okay. He's Offerman is sponsoring them. He's a super funny guy. It The whiskey is great. It's a little softer, a little lighter. It's very oily and viscous though, so it's kind of like a it hits you on both sides. Kind of weird. The last three bottles that I've had, and this might be my palate. This might be the fact that it is, and I'm tasting it. Or it could be that I got a bad bottle. I don't know. Or three. That's kind of weird, right? I have the Lagavulin 16, which is their baseline. It's a 16-year-old Lagavulin, which is, you know, I mean, we're not talking about age statements or anything like that, but keeping a whiskey in a barrel for 16 years, that takes some dedication, right? So, and it's a fairly expensive bottle. And then I have the Distiller's Select, or the Distiller's Edition, both last year's 22 and 23. I don't have the 24 yet. I don't know if it's came out yet. One of them is Pedro Jimenez finished, and the other one is, I think, just sherry finished. I don't think it has a specific finishing on it that it says. Okay, so for me, again, personally, Lagavulin, the ones that I've had. Now, I've had it at restaurants and at the whiskey vault and stuff like that. It's very soapy to me, which I can only attribute to, and I don't know this for a fact, and this is no shade on Lagavulin at all. You guys are doing amazing stuff. You don't need my help, I promise. I think it's saponification. I don't know this for a fact. And if you don't know what saponification is, it is when you water down whiskey too fast. So you have a finished whiskey, right, coming out of the barrel. You don't want to release it at cask strength, because cask strength, you get less bottles. And when you're a huge distillery like Lagavulin, you have to maximize your production. So what they do is they water the barrels down. They could be 60% alcohol. They watered them down to like 46% or whatever. That's right above where you have to fill the chill filter. I think that they are proofing it down too fast. And what's happening is the esters and congeners that's in the whiskey are coming out of suspension, and they're not mellowing back for some reason. Or the other thing, maybe it's not my preferred profile. That's probably more like it. because you have to think about Lagavulin in itself is a very large company, and they have quality control people and people that are tasting the barrels and tasting the bottles and doing, all of the schematics on it, because at the end of the day, if I'm paying $100 for a bottle of whiskey, it better be freaking good, and it better be what I thought it was the last time I bought it. So flavor consistency and all that. But here's the other thing: there is flavor drift. We know this. This is a known fact. There's flavor drift in whiskey. So if it's just my palate, I want to try your Lagavulin. So if you want to send me a sample, I would be more than happy to try your Lagavulin and see if I still get that note. And I might have to break into some tonight. I enjoy it. It's just that soapy note turns me off. It has especially the PX finished one. Oh man, it's super nice. That sherry's really upfront. It's smoky, but okay. Let's talk about the smoke on it, because we're on Islay, right? We're talking about the smokiness. The smokiness for Lagavulin, especially, obviously, is like you would picture it. I feel like it's softer. But I also feel like it is leathery, and books, like old books, dusty old books, but like somebody smoking a cigar in the library. It was Mrs. Mustard in the library. No, somebody, yeah, we're playing Clue now. No, somebody smoking in a library, right? Having a whiskey. Or like maybe you were smoking. I don't smoke, but if I was smoking a cigar and having a whiskey, that's what it kind of tastes like to me. I like that because I don't care for cigars. I don't care for any of the things in cigars. It does nothing for me except make me green in the face and want to puke. So take that for what it is, right? I need to dip into, I'm looking up on my shelf. I have a Lagavulin 8 that I drank, and I didn't really have a whole lot of issue with it other than it was hot. It was hot and fiery. I remember that. I remember that it wasn't pleasant to drink. When I think of Islay, this is a lot of personal opinion, and I'm sorry, because that's at the end of the day, that's all I can give you. Should you go out and buy an Islay? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think everyone should try Islay whiskey, not just once. Don't just try it once and say, I can't drink that. It tastes like wet Band-Aids. No, stop. Get a bottle of something. Here's the thing. I know Highland Park is not Islay, but they do have a very small amount of peat in the Highland Park 12. Get you one of those, right? Try it. The smoke, the brine, it comes through. Then go to something else, and then dip into Islay. And if you're going to do Islay, I would suggest Bunnahabhain, or even a peated mix, like a blended whiskey that has some peated in it. Even I don't want you to go out and buy this bottle because it's expensive, but like Johnny Walker Blue, it has a little bit of peated malt in it. The one of the best peated malts that's out there, dollar for dollar, is Kulila. Yeah, it is. I really enjoy Bowmore as well. I'm gonna get my list. It's on the floor, so I have to step away from the mic for a second to just hold up. Sorry. So I have a list. Yeah, I know. I am a nerd. Stop. Full stop. As you can see, the ones that are watching, it has staples in it. That's how many distilleries there are in Scotland. I pulled this off a wiki. Yay, we love wiki. They're so right all the time. Because they have their checkers that check and make sure that everything's right. So in Islay, we have Ardbeg, obviously. We have Arnaho, Port Askig, right? I'm just looking through. I'm sorry. This is riveting, isn't it? Bamor, Brooklady, Brunehaven, Kulila, any of these. Now, if I had to pick, I would pick Isla over Campbelltown, just barely. I love Campbelltown. I love everything they're about, but their offerings are so scarce. You got 2 or 3 different things you can get, and you can't find them. You can't find them nowhere. Try it. I ask you, and if you find one, let me know. I'll buy it from you. Find a Springbank 12 cast strength. Find one. Go ahead. Go look. I love Kiloman. We forgot to talk about Kiko Man. No, we call it Kiko Man because it's a newer distillery, right? And they are really making some amazing stuff. But I talked about this on another video or something. I'm getting wound up in videos. I'm doing so many freaking things right now. Kiloman has a lot of releases that are non-age stated. I don't care. Are they good? Are they good whiskey? Yes. The issue is like Ardbeg does the same thing. They will release multiple releases a year of non-age stated whiskey. It's a minimum of 3 years old. We know that because it has to be that to be Scotch, but it's barely over that, right? So they're getting younger stock, doing maybe releasing it at 50% alcohol and maybe putting it in another wine barrel for a minute. I don't know what they're actually doing with it, and they come up with a cool story or something, but it's really like one of the ones I saw for Kiloman was they got a 3-year-old Kiloman and they put it in a virgin oak, which is unused, like a new American white oak barrel, for like 6 months. Well, here's the deal. In Scotland, obviously, the climate is so different than it is in the US that the amount of interaction with the wood is very small. You would have to leave it in there for a couple of years, I feel. I might be wrong. If I'm wrong, let me know. I'm sure you will. Lagavulin and Lefroy, they're on Port Ellen as well. There's none on that page. Wow. There's like 9 pages, bro. 9 pages of distilleries. Oh no, never mind. No, there's not. That's it, man. But there's a whole bunch of closed distilleries. That's just sad, man. A lot of distilleries closed down. Former grain distilleries. Yeah, I mean there's just a lot. Let's see one that closed down in Isla. Yeah, Port Ellen, obviously, but yeah, Port Charlotte closed down and Port Ellen. Port Charlotte closed down in 1923, but most of the building remains. Port Ellen, 1983, they plan to reopen this year. I'm pretty excited about that. Can't wait. I think they're sitting on some stock. Let's talk about the Port Charlotte real fast. I'm not 100% sure, and don't quote me on this. I am not like wealth of knowledge. I have books and shit, but like I'm still getting over the thing that we're not talking about anymore, because I have to move on, brother. I have to move on. My hair is coming back. We're rocking and rolling in 24, so I don't want to talk about it anymore. That's why I don't want to do a whole lot of housekeeping unless we got cool stuff to talk about, other than me losing the blinds. No. Brooklady has only been open recently. It was probably open before or whatever, but since 2001. Yeah. So they're what, 20 something years old, 23 years old. And they're making some of the best whiskey out there. I will tell you, that I don't have it literally. Oh, you can kind of see it over my shoulder. The Brook Lottie Classic Lottie. It's unpeated. For what it is an amazing scotch. It's amazing. It has a little salinity to it, but it's amazing. It really is. It has such a good flavor profile. And then obviously Brook Lottie, they're coming out with the black art. They sold their soul to the devil. I guarantee you for that one. It is such an amazing whiskey. Yeah. Yeah, they had old stock from before they closed. They had to have. Because the one that I had, the 8.1, was gifted to me. Graciously, obviously. It was a 26-year-old single malt scotch at cast strength. Yeah, 45%, I think, 46%. Crazy. One of the best single malts I've ever had in my life. Not lying. Really good. Really good. Really good. Okay, let's move on. There's so many distilleries that are doing really cool things in Islay, and they're innovating and they're being innovative, right? They're being innovative in the way that they do it, and it's really cool. I can't wait to see the future of Islay, which it has a past and it has a present, like it has a presence. But like I know that like Lefroy stepping up their finishing stuff. They're not really being as they're being a lot. I don't want to say more transparent because all these guys are pretty transparent. But they're being like a lot. How do you say it? How do I say it the right way? They're being a lot more transparent on like their barrel finishing. They do the Caderas, I think that's how you say it, line, which is like double Spanish oak influence from wine casks and uh, four different oak casks and like all this really cool stuff they're doing. Yeah, you pay a premium for that. Obviously, is it gimmicky? Sometimes it is. But they have one that they put in a what they call a quarter cast, which obviously, if you think about it, it's a quarter of a 53-gallon barrel. So it's like a 15 or something. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It gives a lot more wood to whiskey ratio, right? So you get a lot more wood influence. And I personally enjoy that. I like that. I like a scotch with a little more wood influence. That's why I like really sherried scotches, because you can taste the sherry in them. Like, do I like sherry? No. And we're going to get into that. We're going to do a podcast about wine and wine finishing, and kind of go over the different types of finishing and what they kind of present to the whiskey. I think that's really cool, because if you know the wine that's going in the barrel first, and then the whiskey that's going in after, at my Psalm level 3 class, we got to do a tasting of all of the different types of sherry. It was weird. I didn't care for most of them. It's just is what it is. I'm more of a port if I'm going to drink the wine. I'm more of a port. Sherry is a little strange to me. Maybe I need to try sherry a little more. I don't know. She's just not very nice to me. No, I'm joking. Yeah, so trying sherry finished things and seeing what the sherry influence or the port influence or you can kind of tell the beer influence. You know what I mean? The beer influence that's on there, you can kind of tell that most of the time. But sometimes you can't. I'm sorry, we're talking about finishing. We're talking about Islay. Should you get an Islay whiskey? The answer is yes, absolutely. It should be in your repertoire. Maybe not something you dip into all the time, but you need to have one. Should you have one from every region? Possibly. Okay, but if you have Isla and you don't like the taste of it, like you have had it multiple times, you've sat through, you put it on ice, you made it in a cocktail, you did all the things, and you're just like, it's not my flavor. Then don't do Campbelltown either. Campbelltown's even worse. No, it's more like burnt rubber. It's that phenolic. But should you have a highland, a lowland, a Speyside, and some island? I know island isn't really a thing, but um, it's not really a region, but it is a region. Anyway, should you get those? Absolutely, because they are different. They are very much different. Very much different. And that's where I think the whole point of me doing the whole gamut of Scotch separately, you know, was to point out that they are so different in their profile, in their drinkability, in their terroir. And it's, if you look at Scotland, it's not that big, bro. It's little compared. I mean, I live in Texas, so it's like, everything's smaller than Texas. But you can fit the entire country of Scotland in Texas. What? Yeah. Just saying. So the terroir difference, all of those things, you need to try it. If that's not enough of a call to action, I guess you can say, then I don't know. I don't know how else to help you. Like, seriously, it's what you need to do. Maybe you don't like Scotch. Maybe you don't like single malt. There is a inherent funk that comes from malt. It's called the malt funk, obviously. To me, it's very desirable. To some people, they're going to be like, oh, that's weird. To me, it tastes like musty grain. Like, if you've ever had cream of wheat or oh gosh, like oatmeal, right? Or some people call it wheat bix, right? But yet they're like old. They're not hot and fresh. Like, and so how there's your kid, like if you have kids, I don't know how many of you do, but if you have kids that will eat their cereal or we're talking about oatmeal or cream of wheat or whatever, and they'll leave some. They won't eat it all, right? And so, like, you're busy doing other stuff, and you go to pick up that bowl, and that last little bit is kind of in there, and you got to like scrape it into the. We have a chicken bowl, but not everybody has chickens. I understand. We scrape it into the chicken bowl. Well, it's that smell. I don't eat it. Obviously, that's gross. I don't want to eat old oatmeal, but it's that smell, and it does turn some people off. That's why a lot of people go towards bourbon, because it's sweet, it's corn forward, which corn is almost a neutral taste. You get a lot more of the barrel influence, which then in turn you get a lot more barrel sugars, which gives you vanillins and your caramel and your all the thing. Whereas Scotch, or even American single malt, it's the grain. You're getting the taste of the grain itself forward, and the barrel is a accent to it, right? So if you take anything away from these podcasts that I've done about Scotch, it is grain forward. And if you don't like that grain note, that malt funk, you're probably not going to jive it. I will say this. I ask you to give it a try. There's a lot of bars out there, a lot of restaurants that have really good Scotch selections. Get you a pour. Now, I will tell you this, and I probably talked about this multiple times on the show, but whenever I drink like a peated Scotch, there was one time we were at a restaurant and I got a peated Scotch, and my wife said, "You're going to have to cover that up." I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "I can smell it." And she goes, I don't like the way it smells. Can you cover that up? It's making me not want to eat. And I said, oh, okay. So some of the flavors are strong. Some of the flavors are strong. But guys, I got to get out of here. So I love you. Thank you very much. We forgot to talk about our sponsors. Let's talk about them real fast. I didn't forget you guys. Bad Motivator Barrels, right? We all know them. We love them. They're doing some amazing things. Chris over there, he is knocking it out of the park. They have a new facility. They're blowing and going. They're doing cool stuff. Go over there. There'll be a pinned link down below to where you can go pick you up a barrel. It gives me a little ding that says that I sent you over there. It doesn't cost you anything. Okay. And also Z Smith Whiskey and Mixology. Give him a follow on Instagram, Facebook, wherever else he's on. He's on a lot of places. If you're into whiskey, like I hope you are, he's doing some cool stuff. He's doing cocktails of the week. He's really into cocktail making and stuff like that. He does bar prep. He helps people for their bar, their bar back, like all the stuff behind the counter. He's opened bars for people. He's gave them their drink lists. He knows his way around a bar and around whiskey, especially. He's just an amazing dude doing amazing things. And you need to give him a follow. But yeah, no, this has been fun. And the next episode we're doing, it's going to get fun. It's going to get real fun. Not that this one wasn't fun, but I think that the next episode we are going to dive into Texas whiskeys. Yeah. Either we're going to do Texas whiskeys or it's we're going to dive into what was the other thing I wanted to talk about? I forgot. I'll remember as soon as I quit recording. I'll remember. But yeah, no, it's we've got some excellent guests. Excellent guests are here, and they're knocking it out of the park. Every week I have more and more to give. And so, as always, love you guys. Y'all are awesome. If you want to support this show, go to patreon.com/thewhiskeyshaman, and you can get the video of this episode. I'm giving back to the community, and you're helping me feed my 800 kids. It's a small village that I have to feed. It's all I can offer them is whiskey. It's not child abuse, but anyway, I'm joking. I'm totally joking, guys. I love you. And y'all be good. And I'm trying to find the end record button. And until next time, keep your spirits up.